at the fragile edge of dawn, when uncertainty still lingers like mist around your thoughts. You wonder whether today's swirl of needs will drown your courage or lift you higher. In this hushed moment, the sky itself invites you to kneel, a silent chapel where humble hearts are shaped into willing vessels, ears grow sharp for listening, and souls become quietly equipped to witness love until blessing overflows. You praise the one whose steadfast presence steadies every heartbeat, whose wisdom molds ordinary clay into luminous purpose. Hand him the weight of unfinished plans. Open your palms for fresh marching orders. Breathe in the first light and let his spirit steer your steps. Isaiah 6:8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And you said, Here am I, send me. This call still echoes across centuries. It waits for your answer now, offering courage and companionship. Will you entrust the fear of inadequacy to him? Will you dare to ask where he longs to send you next? Now, as your heart grows still, we step into the journey. The first rays slip over the horizon, brushing rooftops with amber, and you bow beneath their quiet fanfare. You sense how easily pride prowls in hidden corners, promising control it cannot deliver. So you lay every achievement, every plan, every title at the feet of the Almighty. Your breath slows, shoulders soften. Even unspoken ambitions glide from your grasp like autumn leaves returning to soil. In this unclenching, you discover the paradox of surrender. What you yield, heaven refines. What you release, heaven can raise. The earth itself seems to exhale. Sparrows erupt from branches. Dew pearls vanish. Night's cool hush cedars to cricket song fading into lark call. Creation reminds you that dependence is not defeat. It is design. Psalm 51 sounds unseen. The sacrifice pleasing to God is a broken spirit, a contrite heart. O God, you will not despise. Contrition is not punishment. It is the doorway where restoration walks in. Kneeling here, you name the subtle idols that siphon devotion, the need to be admired, the constant measurement against others, the secret fear of disappointing voices that once defined success. Each confession is a seed falling into good soil, splitting in surrender so life can sprout. You picture your heart as freshly tilled ground, scent of earth rising as gentle rain of mercy descends. Soft soil drinks grace deeply, hardened clods crack open. Forgiveness seeps into fissures, dissolving shame's grit. You taste freedom in the salt-sweet tears that gather when truth meets tenderness. No rebuke storms from heaven, only the quiet assurance. You are mine, let me lead. Stilling your restless mind, you recall how Jesus washed dusty feet, exchanging royal prerogative for servant's cloth. The basin ripples before your imagination, clear water mirroring a face that longs to mirror Christ. You hear him whisper that greatness in his kingdom begins with bowing, and bowing begins with trust. So you pray, strip away the veneer of self-reliance, fold my ego into your larger story. Those words tremble like a candle's flame, yet they kindle resolve. You are not forfeiting purpose, you are unclasping it from your own small hands, so God may enlarge its reach. A soft breeze slides across your skin, birds scale higher arcs, the sun edges upward, gelding clouds in rosy gold. In that widening light, you sense something shifting. Yesterday's burdens shrink, tomorrow's uncertainties lose their serrated edge. Surrender has carved a spacious place within you where heaven's strategy can root. Silence lingers, but it is no longer empty. It hums with expectancy. You rise, not in haste, but in readiness, lighter, steadier, eyes shining with new orientation, downward first. In reverence, upward next, in hope. You inhale the soft perfume of morning jasmine, sensing more than oxygen entering lungs. You perceive the quiet arrival of divine breath, the same breath that hovered over formless waters and awakened dust into living soul. A holy wind brushes your spirit, inviting you to widen the chambers of your heart the way a potter widens wet clay, slow, deliberate, open to impression. You picture an empty chalice lifted skyward, rim shimmering with dew, waiting to be flooded with power beyond its firing. The world may laud grit and brilliance, yet you recognize that enduring influence springs from surrender to an invisible current stronger than storms. Ephesians 5:e, be filled with the Spirit. This is not a polite suggestion. It is an endless well whose water turns ordinary footsteps into holy ground. So you linger, palms upward, allowing silence to deepen like a well that draws subterranean refreshment. Memories of yesterday's frustrations float across consciousness. Short tempers, hurried prayers, brittle judgments. Rather than wrestle them, you let them drift to the surface, where the Spirit skims away the dross, leaving waters clearer, freer to reflect divine intent. The gentle inner voice reminds you that filling requires space, and space appears only when clutter is cleared. You envision your life as a lamp trimmed and ready, its reservoir needing sacred oil. In unseen realms, heaven tips a flask, sending golden grace to seep into every fiber of your purpose. Work deadlines, family conversations, even the mundane errands that feel beneath notice. Nothing is too small to shine once anointed. Flickers of excitement dance within you, not born of caffeine or ambition, but kindled by communion. Acts 1:8. You will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses. Power here is not domination. It is the quiet magnetism that draws wandering hearts toward hope. Suddenly you sense fresh capacity patience that can outlast traffic snarls, creativity that can weave solutions where others see dead ends, empathy that melts icy rooms. The Spirit's infilling does not erase personality, it heightens it, tuning each trait like strings on a psaltery, so heaven may play melodies suited to the day's unfolding score. Around you, dawn continues its liturgy, sunlight spilling over windowsills, pigeons cooing benedictions from tiled roofs, a distant vendor rattling pans as though striking cymbals of praise. Creation seems to nod in agreement. Dependence is strength when the source is inexhaustible. You whisper a daring request, flow through my speech, shape my reactions, guide my decisions. The plea is simple yet seismic, for it transfers authorship of the upcoming hours from your limited script to a boundless narrative. You glimpse co-workers surprised by your calm, strangers disarmed by your kindness, loved ones lifted by your forgiveness. None of this springs from sheer willpower. It wells up from divine occupancy. A thought surfaces. Vessels crack under pressure unless reinforced. At once you remember the advocate's promise to counsel, comfort, remind. Stress may pound today, yet the Spirit within can absorb shock like living resin, preventing fractures. You breathe this consolation deep, feeling inner walls thicken with resilient peace. As the segment closes, you set one practical intention: pause hourly, however briefly, to notice breath again and whisper, "Fill me afresh." That rhythm will keep the flow unblocked, like springs continually feeding a stream so it never stagnates. You rise, light in eyes mirroring light on skyline, convinced that the same force animating galaxies also animates you. City streets murmur awake beneath your window, yet inside you choose a pocket of calm where awareness can stretch like a sail waiting for wind. You sense how easily demands roar louder than devotion. Phone chimes, traffic horns, competing opinions, all clamoring to script your agenda before dawn's blush has even faded. Instead, you linger in steady silence, noticing the soft tick of your pulse, the faint creak of floorboards, the distant coo of doves perched on power lines. Each subtle sound reminds you that the one who formed hearing also speaks in tones gentle enough to be missed unless you hush competing echoes. You recall Elijah standing on a rugged slope as rock-splitting gales and quaking ground thundered past. Yet revelation arrived only in a thin whisper, almost too delicate for mortal ears. A 1 Kings 19:12, the divine often bypasses spectacle, choosing whispers so intimate they slip directly into the folds of conscience. Because that pattern persists, you cultivate attentiveness the way a gardener weeds vines deliberately, consistently, convinced that uncluttered soil multiplies fruit. You loosen the soil of your schedule, pulling out unnecessary scrolling, trimming conversations that spiral into gossip, watering stillness with intentional breaths. The vacancy left by distraction is not barren, it is fertile expectancy. Soon your senses awaken to unexpected messengers. A barista's kind greeting, sunlight refracting through studio glass like stained glass windows. A child's spontaneous laughter cutting through wary faces on the bus. Each moment pulses with possibility. Perhaps God is highlighting whom to encourage, where to pause, which burden to shoulder with unseen prayer. You discover that listening exceeds ears. It employs sight, touch, intuition, a full body antenna tuned to divine frequency. Your inner dialogue slows, words traded for awareness. When scripture surfaces in memory, you pause to taste it, letting syllables dissolve like sweetness on tongue until the flavor of meaning saturates motives. When conscience nudges you away from sarcasm or toward apology, you obey swiftly, trusting that small adjustments steer entire journeys. When unexpected gratitude rises, sparked by birdsong, by steam spiraling from morning tea, you bless God aloud, sealing observation into worship. Over time, these responses braid into a liturgy woven seamlessly into errands and meetings, turning ordinary corridors into echoing sanctuaries where guidance can resonate. Another practice emerges before entering any room. You breathe a short prayer. Teach me to notice. Then scan faces for quiet sorrow or flickers of hope. Eyes once darting for efficiency now linger long enough to read unseen stories. And because you listen, your words later arrive seasoned with empathy, like cool water offered to parched travelers. People perceive something different, a presence that actually pays attention, not to analyze or control, but to honor. That difference often unlocks hearts faster than arguments ever could. Listening costs you nothing, yet grants treasures others race past. Hidden lessons in setbacks, creativity birthed during silence, warnings that spare regret, encouragement custom fitted to shy souls. You realize that many crises begin where listening ends. And many miracles bloom where listening thrives. So you resolve to guard this posture throughout the day, setting silent reminders, an hourly chime, a sticky note on laptop bezel, to return ears inward and upward. These pauses become stepping stones across rushing hours, keeping feet dry while water swirls on either side. As lark song fades into mid-morning bustle, you feel assurance settle. Guidance is not a scarce commodity, it is a river whose current is strongest beneath the noise, waiting for those who crouch low enough to touch its surface. You straighten with new poise, convinced that every intersection ahead can transform into holy encounter because you carry within you the practiced art of listening. Morning widens its golden embrace, and you stand in the strengthening light, as though in an armory where unseen hands fasten purpose to soul. You feel weightless moments ago, yet now a gentle heft settles, like a craftsman's satchel placed across shoulders, reminding you that heaven never sends an empty-handed messenger. Breezes sweep through branches overhead, rattling leaves like sparring swords, hinting that battles swirl beyond eyesight. Yet supplies await every skirmish. A thought rises, readiness is less about stockpiling than about trusting the supplier. Memories surface of times you faced tasks far beyond training, comforting a grieving acquaintance, mediating tense co-workers, offering hospitality when resources felt thin, yet provision flowed precisely on time, as if invisible couriers dispatched hope in brown paper parcels. Such recollections coax fresh confidence. What lies ahead may stretch you, but it cannot starve you of what grace has pledged. I 2 Timothy 3:15 sin, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. Thoroughly means no corner left barren, no moment stripped of possibility. Adequacy blossoms inside obedience. You picture a toolkit unfolding, patience gleaming like a well-oiled wrench, discernment sharp as chisel steel, encouragement soft yet sturdy as leather gloves. None arrived by accident, each developed through seasons where struggle pressed, forcing reliance over resourcefulness. Skills that felt rusty yesterday emerge polished because surrender permitted divine refinement overnight. Even weaknesses weave into effectiveness, compassion forged from old wounds, humility tempered by failure, resilience strengthened through waiting winters. Listening further, you sense assignment forming like ink in water, perhaps mentoring a nervous intern, calming anxious family members, speaking justice where silence has bruised dignity. Immediately, doubts gather, aim you qualified, yet the spirit inside counters, am you available? The difference loosens knots in stomach. God delights in tools that rest willingly in his grip. Sharpening happens en route, not only in preparation chambers. To steward gifts well, you resolve 3 habits. First, study linger over wisdom the way miners sift for gemstones, recognizing that truth memorized becomes quick draw counsel. Second, community iron shapes iron, so you seek companions who will sand rough edges and celebrate growth. Third, rest the even finest blades dull without shelter. You guard Sabbath pauses where edges bathe in oil of gladness. Daylight brightens. In its glow you notice spiderwebs beaded with dew, tensile yet delicate, stretching between garden posts. They mirror the network of grace linking you to countless servants worldwide, each filament carrying resources across distances faster than speech. When you pray for missionaries, leaders, unseen laborers, supply flows through silken strands of intercession, reinforcing both them and you. The kingdom's economy is circular. What you release returns multiplied. What you hoard stagnates. Your final act before stepping into bustle is symbolic. You open empty palms towards sky, then close fingers as though grasping invisible tools. Whispering, "Outfit me according to today's blueprint." The gesture seals intent, anchoring heart in expectation rather than anxiety. Wind swirls, lifting hair like banner cloth, and you sense commissioning complete. Shoes strike pavement with new assurance. Resources are already en route, miracles already scheduled, outcomes already woven. You need only move forward, alert and grateful, wielding whatever heaven hands you moment by moment. You step beyond the doorway, cool air brushing cheeks like a silent benediction, and realize the real sanctuary now stretches across sidewalks, offices, cafes, and crowded buses. Inside you, the Spirit's quiet blaze makes timidity crackle and fall away like dry husk. Yet you feel no call to spectacle, only an unwavering invitation to let truth shine in steady, ordinary ways. You begin by noticing people the world labels invisible: the janitor wheeling refuse at dawn, the vendor arranging wilt-edged flowers, the anxious co-worker masking exhaustion with forced laughter. Instead of rushing past, you grant each face the dignity of full attention, greeting them by name when possible, offering a smile that reaches the eyes. Such gestures seem small, yet they fracture loneliness. And loneliness once fractured leaves space for hope to seep in. Throughout the morning, chances to speak kindness emerge like fireflies against pale sky. A colleague vents frustration in the break room. You listen without interrupting, then offer a sentence seasoned with empathy, not platitude. A classmate scoffs at faith. You respond with curiosity rather than defense, asking gentle questions that reveal hurt beneath sarcasm. Your tone carries calm conviction, a river guiding stones without grinding them. Courage, you discover, seldom sounds loud. It often whispers steady truths when cynicism shouts. Fear still prowls nearby, suggesting silence would be safer. It reminds you of past moments when words tangled, when motives were misread, when hospitality felt exploited. Yet you counter by remembering that light does not weigh options before streaming through windows. It simply pours out because that is its nature. So you continue pouring, sharing your lunch with someone short on cash, offering ridey, share credit to a neighbor late for an interview, sending an encouraging text to the friend drifting from community. Each act paints a brushstroke of the kingdom across drab surfaces. At midday you sense a nudge to pray, not later, but now. For the barista who mentioned her father's illness, you slip into a quiet alcove, whisper her name, entrusting her burden to the healer. This hidden intercession feels like watering seeds buried in soil you may never see sprout. Yet faith knows roots stretch long before stems break ground. You walk back into sunlight lighter, evidence that courage also blooms in unseen chambers. Conversation after conversation reveals that souls hunger more for authenticity than polish. You admit your own weaknesses freely, describing how mercy met you in failures, how guidance arrives when you pause to listen. Such transparency disarms defensiveness. It tells listeners they are safe to explore questions without judgment. You are not recruiting. You are reflecting, letting divine compassion gleam through cracks he has healed. Late afternoon shadows lengthen, and fatigue tries to dull clarity. Yet another opportunity arises. A neighbor's child cries beside a toppled bicycle. You kneel, dust off scraped knees, affirm bravery, and walk her home while chatting about sunsets and adventures. Her mother thanks you with tear-shimmered relief. You recognize again that kingdom work often hides in unscheduled detours, and willingness to be interrupted is itself a testimony louder than sermons. Dusk approaches, painting rooftops rose and lavender, and you review the day's mosaic. Some encounters felt profound, others fleeting, but all offered flashes of grace. You sense heaven's quiet applause, not for perfection, but for availability. As streetlights flicker on, you whisper, "Keep chiseling fear from my heart. Tomorrow let love speak even freer." A gentle warmth settles, confirmation that courageous witness is less an event than a lifestyle sculpted one obedient choice at a time. Evening's gloaming still lies far ahead, yet you already sense a tide of goodness rising, cresting past every boundary you imagined. Blessing, once received, cannot remain contained. It behaves like spring water finding cracks in stone, seeping outward until whole fields glisten. You walk through corridors and sidewalks as a living tributary, words sprinkling comfort, gestures rippling kindness, until rooms feel fresher simply because you passed through. Gratitude pulses in your chest, a steady drum that sets the rhythm for generosity. Each heartbeat whispers, "Give more, fear less." You notice how abundance rarely announces itself with fanfare. It hides in the way coffee tastes sweeter when shared, in laughter that unspools at a dinner table made sacred by honest stories, in the quiet thrill of watching someone else succeed because you offered a hidden lift. You discover that when you release praise for another's accomplishments, your own joy doubles. When you release resources to meet another's need, scarcity's illusion dissolves. Blessing begets blessing the way dawn begets daylight. Inevitable, unstoppable, golden. Throughout the afternoon you practice open-handed living. A colleague thanks you for covering a task. You deflect spotlight toward the team and watch camaraderie flourish. A cashier's wary sigh nudges you to leave a small note of hope beneath the receipt. Later you glimpse her eyes shimmer with unexpected affirmation. Each deed feels effortless, not because circumstances soften, but because rivers never strain to flow once channels clear. You grasp a deeper mystery. Overflow does not drain you. Like loaves multiplied in unseen hands, virtue grows while given, energy renews while spent in love. Peace replenishes while spoken over turmoil. The spirit you welcomed this morning orchestrates circulation, drawing heaven's riches through you to others, then cycling fresh grace back like a returning tide that polishes shoreline stones. Generosity thus becomes sustainable, a perpetual motion of mercy that defies economic logic. Occasionally doubt creeps in, what if needs outpace supply? Yet creation itself counters. Sunlight never hoards rays for tomorrow, rivers do not ration for next season. Vine branches pour sap into swelling grapes until harvest rejoices. Emboldened, you resolve to mirror this ecosystem, hold nothing hostage. Trusting that the Father who clothes lilies also replenishes surrendered hands. As late day clouds parade in subtle pastels, you pause to catalogue wonders reconciliation sparked by a humble apology at lunch. Innovation birthed from a brainstorm where every voice mattered. Peace resting on your mind, despite deadlines still looming. None of these arose from flawless planning. They surfaced from a posture open enough to transmit divine abundance. You sense the Father smiling over your willingness, eager to funnel even greater currents tomorrow. With twilight on the horizon, you lift an evening-colored prayer. May everyone touched by today's flow feel invited into the same river of life. May seeds scattered in casual moments sprout in unexpected seasons. May the echo of kindness reverberate far beyond your knowing. Stars peek through paling azure, each a pinprick promise that darkness cannot swallow light that spreads. You breathe this promise deep, then walk toward nightfall buoyant, carried by the very blessing you carried to others. Before stepping fully into today, linger one last breath. Picture every person you will encounter standing beside a well whose water never runs dry. In your imagination, dip a cup of encouragement. Offer it freely, then watch ripples widen far past your reach. Hear gratitude forming in advance, like birds rehearsing dawn choruses long before sunrise. Feel assurance settle that resources greater than sight are already streaming through invisible channels. Whisper, use me again, expand me again, overflow me again. Stay in that whisper,